Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is Tuesday, January the 20th, 2018. TowerGate 320. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Well, if you watched yesterday's video, that was Monday's video, which I recorded on Sunday night about midnight. I predicted that the government shutdown would probably end on Monday, and it did. It was a tremendous political fail on behalf of Schumer and the Democrats. And it's not just me that's saying that, of course. I was watching some of the left-wing outlets, and even they, in the left-wing media, are talking about what an absolute disaster it was. Not only did Schumer have no leverage, he had negative leverage. We talked about that when they were threatening the shutdown. I said, Schumer better check the polls, because the last time I checked, about over 60% of the people in the country want the border secured. And most people in the country understand that you have to have a real immigration policy. You can't allow the country to be flooded by millions of illegals who put a huge drain on the budget, commit lots of crime, and various other things. People want a realistic policy. And of course, Trump won big. And one of the reasons he won was because of his position on immigration and building the wall. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure this stuff out. So, anyway, yes, watching the liberal pundits, and even they are admitting that this was a disaster. But on the other hand, you have the progressives who are now furious, and even more furious, because the Democrats didn't hold the line. So it was an epic fail. Not only did Schumer and the Democrats take a political hit and look like complete fools in front of the entire country, but they ended up pissing off the very people they were trying to placate, because the entire stunt was a stunt designed for them to play to their far left-wing, progressive wing of their base, because they're concerned in 2018 that the progressives are not going to come out for them. And they're not. The progressives want the corporate Democrats gone. They are prepared to vote third party, create a new party, vote Green Party. They despise the corporate Democrats. They know that the rotten Reverend Clinton and the DNC cheated them. They know it. They're not stupid. They know they were cheated, and they're still very, very angry. So then they take Tom Perez, who represents the corporate Democrat wing of the party, and they make him in charge. He answers to the corporate Democrats. He answers to the big donors on Wall Street, and the teachers and lawyers unions and things like that. They bring in Keith Ellison because they think that will placate the progressives by bringing in Ellison. And the very first thing they try to do with Ellison is get Bernie to give up his donors list, which Bernie's not going to give up his donors list. Bernie might use it himself in 2020 if he's still alive and not in jail with his wife Jane. Or he may give it to someone who represents his views. Or he just may sell it. It's probably worth over $1 million. So no, Bernie's not going to hand over the list, especially after they screwed him. Not that he cared, but it's just one of those things, you know. So anyhow, this whole stunt was a stunt to placate to the left wing of the base, because the Democratic Party is terrified, because they know that all the efforts they've made up to this point since the election to bring the progressives back into the party has not worked. And they don't know what to do. They've tried to go out and reason with these people, but as we saw from a couple of speeches, we saw Dianne Feinstein have to be taken out of an auditorium with security, because the progressives she was speaking to, when she tried to explain to them why she didn't support a single payer, as far as a practical, she supports it theoretically, but not as a practical measure to win elections. And she tried to explain the electoral issues with a policy like that. And Pelosi did the same, and both of them got the same reaction from a room full of progressives. They both had to be whisked out with security. The progressives are not interested in hearing any of it. They want single payer, they want to bust up the big banks, they want free education, they want free this, they want free that, and they've been told that they can have all these things. They've been buying up the most hardcore left-wing progressive Marxist philosophy now for a couple of years. They've been regurgitating this stuff, and now they believe it. And now the Democrats have a big problem because they've created this monster within their own party. It's a very, very hard left group of people who are willing to deprive Democrats of votes and of wins, of election wins, in order to prove their point, which is that they hate the corporate Democrats and they're not going to vote for them again until they get a real, true Marxist. And there you go. The Democratic Party is deeply divided, and in an effort to try to pull it together, they're taking extraordinary risks like the one they just took. And now, not only did it hurt them with rank and file Americans across the country who think they're nuts, but it also ended up defeating their entire purpose, which was to placate the left wing, the extreme left wing of their base. And now all they've done was make those people even angrier. Congratulations, Chuck. You definitely spit the bit on this one. In a text between Peter Benstrokenis and Lisa Page, they discuss a, quote, meeting of the secret society, unquote. Now, there's members of Congress now. This is the newest text message that has been discovered from the 400 and some text messages that were turned over on Friday night. And now they've gone through those and they've found this little gem. And apparently this was a text that came right after Trump won the election. And Lisa Page sends a text over to her boyfriend, Peter Benstrokenis, and basically says, uh-oh, it looks like this calls for a meeting of the secret society. So I guess they're going to want to speak to these two and find out about that secret society. Probably the same people putting together the insurance policy. And we're also learning that there's rumors that maybe people in the FBI, the DOJ, and there's probably hundreds who were involved in the coup, maybe using burner phones, throwaway phones, phones that are used by drug dealers and people like that. You use them once and you throw them away. Now it appears that maybe some of these people in the DOJ and FBI might be using burner phones. Well, that of course would be illegal. You're not allowed to use those types of phones when you're doing government work, government business. All that has to be done on government phones, and it all has to be captured on government servers and things and such, because that information belongs to the people. Your work belongs to the people. Your documents, your voicemails, your phone calls, everything. When you're on the government's time, it belongs to the taxpayers. So if they are doing this, they will be caught, and that will be an additional crime that they'll be facing. Now, the reason why they would be doing this is because they think that possibly they maybe their phone calls, obviously, and texts could be gone back and listened to. But, you know, at this point, you know, I would not be the least bit surprised. In fact, I would expect that a lot of these people might be under surveillance. How funny is that? They used surveillance to try to pull off a coup. Well, since a lot of these people's names have come up in these investigations, and since they've reopened these investigations, it's very likely that a lot of these people are now under surveillance. Peter Benstrokenis, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, Glenn Simpson, that whole group, certainly others, they may very well all be under surveillance. Their phone calls may be listened to, their emails may be probably being collected, because when perps realize that it's about to hit the fan, they begin doing things and saying things and talking to people and taking various actions that might show guilt. And so it's always a good thing when you got someone, once they're aware that someone's on to them, they start behaving in a certain way. It's nice if you can capture their behavior and their text messages and their phone calls and their emails. And that's probably exactly what is going on right here. Isn't that ironic? They are now the ones under surveillance. Jeff Sessions says he will leave no stone unturned to find the missing texts. Of course. To have permanently gotten rid of those texts would have been a major, major thing to try to do, and I doubt that they could do that. First of all, the government has tons and tons and tons of redundancy. They probably have those texts on multiple servers. Also, a lot of modern phones, actually, the phone itself can reproduce the email, even if you deleted it. But more importantly, the tech companies we know from 2 years ago, when they were having this argument over FISA and how this would all be stored, they told us back then, they said, oh, we in the government, we're not going to be the ones that actually hold and store this data. We've got an agreement with the telecommunications companies, and they are going to hold and store the data. The tech companies, telephone companies, they've got the data. They've got the texts, messages. They're probably also on backup government servers and other departments within the government because of the redundancy, and they probably could even be taken off the phones themselves. If they want those emails, they'll get them. If they want those texts, they'll get them. So we'll see, but that's what Sessions is saying, that he will leave no stone unturned to find the missing texts. Good. He's awoken from his slumber, the eager beaver, the overachiever, Jeff Sessions. Trump has apparently been pressuring Wray to fire McCabe. He's been pressuring no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, the FBI director, to fire his assistant McCabe. Not directly, but through probably his chief of staff or someone. And they're suggesting that Christopher Wray is basically saying, if you force me to fire McCabe, I will resign. First, he would resign before he would do that. Fine. Resign. No shit, Sherlock Christopher Wray, you're worthless. You ain't done nothing. Nothing but help the cover-up. I would can Wray. As you know, we looked at Wray as soon as he was appointed, and I told you then I didn't like him. He's connected to the deep state. He's been a part of that system for so long. He's a part of it. He's woven into the fabric. I never liked him as a pick for FBI director. I would can his ass. As a matter of fact, I would go to Sessions and say, Jeff, I want you to fire Rod Rodenstein. And after you fire Rod Rodenstein, I want you to fire Andy McCabe. And then I want you to fire Christopher No Shit Sherlock Wray. And then I want you to resign. That's what I would do. "85% of FISA court searches by the FBI and the DOJ were illegal, according to that FISA declassified document that I keep referring to. That's a 99-page document. I read through the whole thing. My eyes were crossing. It took me about an hour and a half. There's quite a few jewels in there, but I never actually went down and tried to do percentages, and I don't know what's officially an illegal search or not. But apparently, there's been some investigation done, and I believe this comes from Chuck Ross at the Daily Caller, where I guess, I don't know if this is coming from the Inspector General or where it's coming from, but apparently 85% of the FISA court searches that were done by the FBI and the DOJ were illegal. And they were provided to outsiders. This is also what we talked about the fact that the FBI provided a way for Fusion GPS, and now it appears maybe CrowdStrike as well, to access the NSA database to do those 702 FISA Query 17 searches. 85%. That's a high number of illegal searches, my friends. If you remember, 2 days ago, I believe it was, Saturday, I believe on Saturday, I did a video where I told you that Nunes was setting up the cabbage head, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff. Got it right, didn't I? Yes, I believe, and I did this video on Saturday, and I said this is a nice move by Nunes because he's setting up the cabbage head, Adam Schiff. Because he knows that when he releases the memo, the cabbage head, Adam Schiff, is going to say, see, that's just a Republican talking point, this and that and the other thing, you can't believe it, it's just a hit on the FBI, it's just they're trying to, distract from the real investigation, blah, 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 blah. Same thing you always get from the cabbage head, Adam Schiff. Now, he's got some boogly eyes too, doesn't he? He's a cabbage head. So, it looks like I was right again, because it appears, based on an interview that Trey Gowdy did today with another member of Congress, that they are not only looking to release the memo, which is well on its way to being done, But they are also going to be releasing the supporting evidence to back up the memo. I told you. See, I can see these things coming a mile away. I know Democrats have been watching for a very long time. So Nunes is thinking ahead of the game. He's thinking, okay, we're going to release this memo. And as soon as we do, what are the Democrats led by Adam Schiff, the cabbage head, what are they going to do? Oh, they're going to question our integrity. They're going to question the people who chose to release it. They're going to question the information in the memo and all this type of thing. So what we have to be able to do is that we have to be able to produce not only the memo, but what we really want to produce, what we really want people to see is the hard evidence, the stuff that we can release that's not, stuff that's classified or what have you. A lot of stuff will have to be declassified. There's certain things they may not release. But a lot of these testimonies they've done with a lot of these people they've questioned, a lot of the documents, a lot of the stuff we can see. And that's what Nunes and other Republicans in this committee really want to get out. It's not so much the 4-page memo. That's kind of like a little story about what happened. They actually want us to get, and they want journalists to get their hands on this so they can dig and dig and dig, because it'll have a lot of legs to it. So I knew this was the play as soon as I thought about it. And of course, I was right. And so now we hear today that Trey Gowdy, Devin Nunes, and one other chairman of another committee, they're all working together right now to look at the evidence that they used to create this 4-page memo. And they're prepared to go through that and figure out what they can release of that to prove where they got the facts that they used to create this memo, so that they can basically knock the cabbage head Adam Schiff's argument and the liberal media's argument out of the water, that it's all just political talking points by Republicans. They want the actual evidence out there where we can all digest it. Exactly what I thought. Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz told CNN today that the government shutdown was to build momentum for 2018. Exactly. Exactly what I just explained to you. They did that government shutdown for one reason. They did that to placate the far left wing of their party, because they're terrified that they're not going to come out and vote for them in 2018. So what they want to do is they want to play to the far left of their party, the progressives, the hard left, the Bernie Sanders folks. They want to play to those people as much as they can, and they thought this stunt would be a good way to win the hearts and minds of all those Bernie bro progressives who despise them. But as I mentioned, it backfired on them, and now the Bernie bros hate them even worse for caving in. And this is essentially what Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz is saying. She's saying, oh, this was all a political stunt to placate the far left wing of our base. That's what she means by trying to build momentum for 2018. Yes, trying to placate the far left wing of the party to try to get them to give up their grievances and come back home and then go out and vote in 2018, because they know they can't win elections without the far left wing of their base showing up. And they're not going to, unless they show up to vote for Bernie or some far left wing Marxist or the Green Party or a third party. Anybody but the corporate Democrats. That's why I say, by 2020, the Democratic Party will be pretty much destroyed. It will have to be completely remade from the ground up. All new people, completely new platform, completely new Democratic Party. The old Democratic Party, as it exists right now, will cease to exist after the day after the 2018 election. It will implode. Thank you very much. Okay. The Senate... let's see. Oh, yeah. The Senate. This is funny. A lot of senators have gone over to try to review that memo, and they have been turned away. And one of them, who wasn't very happy about it, was Rand Paul. So Rand Paul decides, hey, I know that's a House memo and stuff, but I'm a senator. Certainly I can go over and look at that memo. I'm a Republican. So he strolls on over to the House, thinking that they're going to let him look at that memo. And they deny him. They say, I'm sorry, but you're a senator. This is only for the House. So now members of the Senate are wanting to get together with Nunes and find some way that they, the Senate, can also look at the memo. And essentially what Nunes is saying to him is, look, just relax, guys. We're working on it right now. Here pretty soon, we're going to release it to everybody. Not only that, we're working right now to also release the evidence that we used to produce the memo. You're going to get it. Just be patient. But I would think that somewhere behind closed doors in the next day or two, a couple of high-level, Republicans in the Senate will get over to Nunes' office and say, hey, man, at least let our guys come over and take a look at it, all right? So they'll probably work something out. Rand Paul's going to get to look at that memo probably before we all see it. But it's just kind of funny to get that story that you would assume that Republican senators will be able to look at that memo too, but apparently not. It's only for House members. But I'm sure that will get rectified, and eventually we're all going to get to look at it. And I don't think it will be that far down the road, along with all the evidence that was used to support it, which is really what I want to see. Chris Matthews, the liberal, gives Dems the bad news. Basically, Chris Matthews, who's on MSNBC. Now, this was not on his own show. This was on one of the other shows, and he was a panelist. And he's got 3 liberals sitting there, and they're all doing their talking points, And Matthews, who, despite the fact that he is a liberal's liberal, at times he's a pretty honest liberal. He's one of the few liberals that you'll see who will call out liberals. A lot of them won't do that, but we saw him do it to Rachel Madcow on the night of the election when he looked over at her and said, hey, I know why Hillary lost. She didn't talk about this, didn't do this, didn't do this, didn't go to Wisconsin, whatever. So he's not so much of an apologist for liberals like a lot of liberals are. And basically he said, hey, Trump is going to be extremely formidable in 2020. And he also went on to talk about what a disaster the shutdown was, and that the Democrats, that was a disastrous move on Schumer's part. He talked about, the immigration policy is a disaster. The Democrats don't have any plan, not one that sells in the Midwest and in the South. Very good point. And he basically told him that you can't beat Trump with nothing. And he said, that's what we've got. We've got nothing. We've got nothing to beat Trump. He also said, when you look at the economy, the stock market, people are going to be getting their tax cuts. He said Republicans are going to be mighty strong in 2020, and even in 2018, he says, I don't know why you all are getting so giddy about thinking we're going to win back the Congress in 2018. He said, we're probably going to lose. So he's giving him a hardcore reality check. And he also, something else he did that was pretty amazing, was he commented on Trump's speech that he gave a week ago, which a lot of people are saying it's the best speech he ever gave. And Chris Matthews was basically just, couldn't believe it. He's sitting there saying, hey, that was a great speech, man. There was no low notes. It was one high note after another high note after another high note. He nailed every point. He stayed on message. He never got distracted. He pointed out all the things he's done, all the progress he's making, the economy and all this stuff. I mean, he said he nailed it. He said it was one of the best speeches he's seen. It was a great speech. So here you got Chris Matthews on this panel with these other liberals, and he's praising Trump up and down, telling these liberals that they have no message, telling them that their approach to what they're doing is a disaster and that they're clueless, that they've got a lot of problems, and telling them that they can't beat Trump with nothing. And he said, what we've got right now is nothing. So I'm not sure how the potential candidates for 2020 thought about that. But you could definitely see the shock and the horror on the faces of his MSNBC compatriots as they were letting Chris basically vent to them and basically lay some truth on him, because everything he said was true. Yes, it was. There was a comment made in the comment section on one of my videos. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a recent video by Rooster. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Rooster. He does quite a bit of comments in the comment section. And just to take off on a point that he was talking about, that's really something that it really goes to the heart of what Trump does and what I've always believed. And one thing that made a libertarian out of me back in 2003, besides other things, when I used to be a kind of a rank and file conservative Republican. In 2003, I became a libertarian. And now I'm just kind of consider myself just a constitutional anarchist. But I always was upset that I never really thought that Republicans had any backbone, that they didn't fight or whatever. and that they would try to get along and placate these people. And as I said in my past video, what I like, one thing, I love a lot of things about Trump, and one thing I noticed is he's given the Republicans, you see that they're fighting a lot more than they used to fight. They used to just lay down for Democrats. They were terrified of them and terrified of what the media would do to them, so they would just lay down. But Trump has shown them that you can fight these people and you can beat them in the fight. And so he's giving Republicans this new confidence to stand there now and fight toe-to-toe. Just like they stood up to him here and won in the past, they would have backed down. I'm telling you, Republicans in the past would have backed down. Not this time. They stood their ground. They fought pretty hard. Even Twitch McConnell showed some backbone. And they saw what happens. You win. And there's a larger point that Rooster was talking about, I think, if I'm not misrepresenting his point, but I think the point here is that I don't necessarily believe that, in fact, I don't believe that on issues where you have real fundamental beliefs, differences in beliefs, like the DACA issue or like the tax cuts, any of these issues which you really passionately believe in, this idea that you have to placate the Democrats, placate the far left, allow them to have their peace and move to this position. I just don't like that. You know, I don't believe in that kind of compromise and negotiation. I believe in compromise and negotiation as long as it's working toward the end result being the best thing for the country or the best thing in this situation you're trying to resolve. What I'm not for is backing down and giving in, and just because of this philosophy that that's what you're supposed to do. Oh, you're supposed to. That's how you're supposed to conduct yourself. You're supposed to, give and take. And okay, we'll take 800,000 illegals or whatever. No. See, I can't do that. I can't, in good conscience, do that. If I were in Congress, that's why I would never be in Congress. I could never do it. I would never get voted in because I don't have that personality, that style of doing things. I don't believe in trying to play patty cake with these people and trying to give and take. No, my theory is defeat them. Defeat them. D-E-F-E-A-T, them. Defeat them. Beat them. Pummel them. Stomp them. Destroy them. That's what you do to the enemy. And they're the enemy. That's the problem here. They keep looking at these Democrats like they're just the opposition party and this and that and the other thing. No, they're the fucking enemy. What more do you need to see? They just tried to pull off a deep state coup. They would like to flood the country with illegals. They would like to see millions and millions and millions of illegals coming to every American city in the country, driving down wages, driving up costs and everything, destroying the country, turning it into a shithole. That's what they believe in. Do I want to placate these people? Do I want to play patty cake with these people? Do I want to compromise and negotiate with these people? No! I want to fight these people. I want to defeat these people. Fight and defeat. Fight, fight, fight. That's what you do. You defeat your enemy. You don't placate them. Defeat them. That's what Donald Trump does. He defeats his enemies. And that's how you win. And that's what we all should be doing. I know many of you who subscribe to this channel, I can tell from the comments in the comment section, you're fighters too. You believe like I believe. You fight and defeat your enemy. You don't give them any ground. You don't give them any quarter. You don't take your foot off the throat when you got them down. When you got them down, you crush the windpipe. Victory. Victory over defeat every time. That's what you want. Don't play around with these people. Defeat them. That's my goal. That's why I do these videos. I'm into all-out ass kick and defeat the opponent. That's what I was taught to do my whole life. Fight and win. Defeat the enemy. 3 generations of fighting and defeating the enemy in my family. That's what we'll keep doing. 4 generations, by the way. I was talking to my mom a couple of days ago, and she's like, well, I just won't believe that any of these people are going to be held accountable until I actually see it, because I just don't trust any of those people and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I know, Mom, I know you feel that way. I know a lot of people feel that way. Hey, people that comment on my videos say that, And I'm out there sticking my neck out saying, hey, no, there's going to be a lot of people going to jail. Dozens and dozens. And the more I look into this thing and the deeper and wider it gets, I'm starting to think there may be hundreds of people that are going to be indicted. Because I just don't think that, I think we're living in a different paradigm. There's way too many people watching this, way too much information out there. We have a social media platform now that's extremely powerful, extremely powerful. I just don't think people are going to stand for it. I don't think they're going to be able to reveal all of these crimes, literally treason, a deep state coup, treason, and then say, well, yeah, we got him on treason, and we really called him out. But we're not going to actually prosecute anybody. They're going to retire and get their pensions. We'll be done with them. And we certainly went after them. We gave them a good butt chewing. But we're not going to actually prosecute. No, I don't think that could possibly happen. I think that in itself could cause a revolt. No. People want heads on the platter, my friends. And, when you get into a situation like this where you have literally hundreds of people who might fall under indictment, you can no longer go through the normal court process. And because we are talking about treason, you could actually hear talk of, and I don't know if it'll get to this point, but you could hear talk of military tribunals. Military tribunals. When you get hundreds and hundreds of people, you have to have military tribunals. Or if you get into something like treason, things like that, you're talking about military tribunals. Whole different type of legal system. Whole different type of punishments. Treason in time of war is punishable by death, by firing squad. And I personally believe that treason was committed. I believe there should be military tribunals. I believe they should start immediately. I've seen enough. We'll keep collecting evidence, but we should go ahead and start throwing these people in cells now, so that they can't continue to do what they're doing, so that they can't continue to destroy evidence, so that they can't continue to plot with their friends on getting their stories together. They need to be separated in cells where they can't communicate while we build the case against them. There's enough evidence to arrest most of them at the top of the chain. Comey, Lynch, Rice, Jarrett, Obama himself, the rotten Reverend Clinton, Ben Strokinus, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, his wife, all these people. There's enough evidence right now to arrest these people and hold them, which is what should be happening. And yes, I do believe I would support military tribunals. I hope we get there. We've got to see justice in this particular case. Now, during Watergate, we saw a president who had to be pardoned, and you don't get a pardon unless you need a pardon, unless you've committed crimes. And there was a list of, I believe, 17 serious crimes committed by the Nixon administration. That's why Nixon had to be pardoned. If he didn't commit any crimes, he wouldn't have needed to be pardoned. He was pardoned because he committed crimes. We saw 2 attorney generals go to jail. We saw 22 of the highest ranking members of his cabinet and administration go to jail. This is much, much bigger. There could be hundreds of people involved, which would mean it would be too large for a standard investigation or standard court proceedings and things like that. It would have to move to a military tribunal. And if we're talking about treason in time of war, then we are talking about military tribunals. And if it gets to that, the only thing I can say is, give me a call. My congressman, give me a call. If you can't find anybody to pull the trigger, just shoot me a call. I'd be more happy to come over and offer my services. I'll bring a number 2 pencil and take care of everything. No gunpowder needed. Just me, some perps, and a number 2 pencil. I'll take care of all your problems for you. There you go. Thank you so much for tuning in. TowerGate, January the 20th, 2018. TowerGate 320. I'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday, and we'll see what shoe drops next. Starting to get good, my friends. Stick around for the journey. It's quite the journey. See you.